Hello everyone and welcome to Austria for round 5 of the 2022 Formula 1 season. We are here at the Red Bull Ring in the Austrian mountains to race for the 5th time this season. The track here, 4.3 kilometers, 10 turns, one of the shortest when you look at the amount of corners. Very simple circuit, but just as testing as many of them for the drivers and the cars here. A lot of on-throttle time at this circuit, so expect to see the engines pushed to the very limit. We've got a much drier circuit than we did this time last year. Of course, last year's event, it started in very rainy conditions before transitioning to a intermediate tyre and then finally slick tyres for the end. We had a very strange transition to an intermediate tyre for that season, but this season it looks all dry and the clouds are nowhere to be seen as we prepare for what should be a brilliant Grand Prix. Here is your starting grid for the 2022 Austrian Grand Prix. It is Lewis Hamilton who lines up on pole position ahead of Sergio Perez. Just 26 milliseconds between the top two there. Very close qualifying session, as there often is at this circuit. It's then Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen running out the top 6, just ahead of Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso. It is then Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10, Mick Schumacher the first driver outside the top 10 alongside him, Carlos Sainz. Then it is Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Antonio Giovinazzi, Robert Schwartzman, Pato O'Ward. Then it is George Russell, Nikita Mazepin, Nicholas Latifi and Guan Yu Zhou brings up the back of the grid. So there's your grid for today's race. Now let's head down to the start. All the lights are on now and we are ready to race. And we are racing in Austria. It's a good start for Lewis Hamilton, but is it good enough? That's Sergio Perez on his inside going to turn 1. Will Sergio Perez keep his nose in there? He does not. He backs out going into turn 1. Meanwhile, there's a battle there for third position between Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel as they come charging up the hill. Max Verstappen right behind the two of them there, trying to get involved in this little battle. Bottas looks to have got ahead, but Vettel doesn't look like he's going to give up on it yet. So Bottas goes up the inside now of Sergio Perez in turn 3. Gets to the inside of the Red Bull driver. Yellow flags in the background. That may just be cars trying to make their way through turn 3 as it is a slow speed corner, especially at this stage of the Grand Prix. Bottas has to back out of the move there on Perez. Perez squeezes him, goes a little bit deep, but holds on to that position for now. And Bottas has to settle for third position at the start, but Lewis Hamilton out front so far. Couple of laps later, it's Sebastian Vettel on the attack, this time on Valtteri Bottas around the outside of the Mercedes driver, get himself up onto the podium. Bottas looking to have lost a bit of pace from his previous couple of laps, and immediately it looks like he's struggling here. Perhaps he's picked up some damage on lap 1, as it is Max Verstappen overtaking the Mercedes driver around the outside of turn 1. Makes the move. Can he make it stick? Looks like he has done nice and easily there for the reigning champ as he gets up into 4th position. Meanwhile, we've got a battle here between Daniel Ricciardo and Charles Leclerc as they come charging up the hill here. Look at this pack of cars racing into turn 3. Charles Leclerc on the inside of Fernando Alonso now as Ricciardo's had a great run up the hill, may even get Valtteri Bottas on corner exit, and it looks like he has managed to there. Daniel Ricciardo up into 5th position, but Bottas going to fight it back into turn 4. Bottas on the outside. Can he make this move work here? Got to be careful he doesn't get pushed off wide. We see a lot of drivers get pushed wide there, but on this occasion Bottas keeps the car on the road but does lose the position to Daniel Ricciardo as it's now Fernando Alonso. That's an opportunity to overtake here. Can he pull this one off on the inside of the very fast section of this racetrack? Brave move that only an experienced driver like Fernando would make. Now charging away down towards the final couple of corners here. Bottas on the inside. You'd think that's the preferred line, and it is as they make their way through there. Bottas gets up and holds on to that P6 at this stage of the race, but is clearly struggling a lot at the moment. Meanwhile, we've got a battle here, and it's Charles Leclerc getting past Mercedes drivers this time, but look at the amount of cars battling into that hairpin then. So many cars racing in such a small space. That's what happens when one car starts to have problems up ahead of them. Charles Leclerc on the inside of Valtteri Bottas as they dive into turn 4 now, sending it down past the fin. And the Monegasque gets up into 6th position. Bottas continuing to fall down the order here. And this dreadful season gets worse. It's Pierre Gasly making a great move down the inside of the first of the left-handers. Maybe that is just a part of the track that Valtteri Bottas is struggling on, because we saw Alonso making that same move earlier on. Gasly fights past Valtteri Bottas and he gets himself up the order. Now got a 3-car pack here battling away for the back end of the points. We've got Pato O'Ward, Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso going wheel to wheel up into turn 3. They're 3 wide. O'Ward latest on the brakes, but he might go a little bit deep here as Norris trying to go for the switchback. Alonso involved in this battle too. So I've got a couple more cars behind this group also battling. That is the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll and the AlphaTauri Yuki Tsunoda battling as they dive down into turn 4. who's going to come out ahead on this scrap. Gasly way up the order ahead of his teammate, but on that occasion looks to have got the move done. And that's an engine failure. Antonio Giovinazzi, he's had a great start to the season so far, but an engine failure here looks to have taken him out of contention. Looks like he may have had some wing damage already though, so maybe today just wasn't his day. Now it is a battle between Pato O'Ward and Valtteri Bottas. Bottas now at the stage where he's nearly out of the points, and he could well be out of the points if Lando Norris can make this overtake up towards turn 4. He's got the inside line in turn 2, but it'll be the outside for turn 3, but it doesn't matter because he's already got past using that immense McLaren top speed. Oh, we're going to crash here on entry to the pits. Got drivers coming to the pits for their first stop, and it's Lance Stroll who has had his front wing removed by, I believe, one of the Alpines of Esteban Ocon perhaps, and that will bring out a safety car for debris in the final couple of corners, and a safety car that Lewis Hamilton will take the advantage of pitting under. He brings his Mercedes down pit lane for what in theory should be a one-stop race in this Grand Prix, but we don't know. A slightly earlier pit stop than normal, so perhaps these guys will switch to a two-stop. Now, under the safety car conditions, you can see the running order as it stands, and Hamilton did go to softs, as many of the others did as well, so they are making it a two-stop race now. And Hamilton will bring the field back to green flag racing here, out of the final corner. Safety cars in the pits, they haven't followed it this year. And it is Lewis Hamilton who will lead them back to green. Sergio Perez right behind him, but Sebastian Vettel piling the pressure on to try and get himself up the order here. Guan Yu Zhou currently sitting in the points for the Haas team. You can see that he's gone for a slightly different strategy here. Quite a lot of drivers have. Carlos Sainz might have done the same, as he finds himself up in 5th now, battling away with Max Verstappen. A lot of split strategies in this race. It's hard to sort of know who's on what at this stage. Lots of drivers trying different things because it was perhaps too early in the race to go to the one stop, but perhaps the two stop was the way to go. As we see now a battle on their way into the pits, it is Guan Yu Zhou trying to enter the pits. Looks like he's wheeled with Robert Schwartzman, and what has happened here? And he's been hit. That's a crash at the final corner. Guan Yu Zhou, what has happened here? So he's coming to the pits. He's had to avoid some faster cars. Then that Schwartzman gets to his inside, going into the final couple of corners. Guan Yu Zhou's trying to enter the pit lane. Schwartzman doesn't want to go, and that's just Guan Yu Zhou gets forced onto the racetrack. Schwartzman gets forced into the pit lane, and Zhou is out, and the safety car is out in this race. Lewis Hamilton, though, is still the race leader, and once again we see another spanner in the works for some of the strategies. Lewis Hamilton will lead this field back to green flag racing again, and Sergio Perez again behind him. Not much changed really in those few laps before the next of the safety cars. Lewis Hamilton leads the field away. Sergio Perez going to do all he can to try and hunt down the Mercedes driver. That Mercedes looks very quick at the moment. The Red Bull not been as strong as it was last season so far this year. With the McLaren and Ferrari on his tail, Perez may well have to look into his mirrors at this stage. Verstappen now into the pit lane. He's going to go for his second of 2 pit stops today. He should probably go to the medium compound tyres to take to the end of this race. Now Sebastian Vettel's finally going to make the move on Sergio Perez. He's been stuck behind the Red Bull for quite a while now. The Ferrari on the inside, can he make this move stick? Seen plenty of battles down this little straightaway, wiggling their way past each other. Daniel Ricciardo watching this battle just ahead of him, and it is Sebastian Vettel who gets up into 2nd position. Now into the pits comes this group of cars. It is Sebastian Vettel followed by Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo making their way down pit lane. Let's see. I imagine Verstappen with the undercut may well get this group of cars, but it is now Lewis Hamilton who comes into the pit lane for the second of his stops in this race. Perhaps there will be a couple of drivers doing a one-stop today, so expect to see maybe a mix-up here, and as we do, it is now Pato O'Ward who leads this Grand Prix by 11 seconds. Could this finally be Chevrolet's chance at a Grand Prix victory after joining the sport in just their 2nd year now? Robert Schwartzman also on the same strategy, but he is quite a way behind O'Ward, and he's going to have to deal with the looming threat of Lewis Hamilton, and immediately he's going to have to deal with it, defending from the Mercedes driver, but nothing he can do. Lewis Hamilton sweeps up into 2nd position, and now at 11.5 seconds ahead, and 12 laps left in the race, he has to hunt down the Chevrolet driver. But now there's a battle here. Schwartzman once again getting into a battle with Max Verstappen now and Sebastian Vettel. Schwartzman on older tyres and perhaps a slower car as well here. He's going to have his work cut out to try and defend this position. He's done well so far, holding off the 2 drivers behind him. 5 championships between Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen now as they dive into turn 4. Robert Schwartzman defending as much as he can, but is there anything he can do against the Ferrari? He's going to give it a good go. This could well be it though for Robert Schwartzman. Can he hold off Sebastian Vettel? Vettel on the inside. Robert Schwartzman going to try and hold it around the outside, but he can't quite do it. Vettel up into third position. Schwartzman now creating a bit of a pack of cars now as they race up the hill. Look at this, 3 wide into turn 3. It's Pierre Gasly on the inside there of Verstappen and Schwartzman, who's going to come out on top on this battle. Gasly could well make this move stick, and it would be one hell of a move he does. Robert Schwartzman keeps his nose in this battle, and Schwartzman is still doing an excellent job to defend in this Grand Prix, and he breaks so much later, and he's still in 4th position. What a drive from Robert Schwartzman here. Excellent work from the Russian driver. Now into the pits it is. Oh, and that's a crash. Daniel Ricciardo. That was Sergio Perez was coming to the pits, so I think he may have knocked his wing, and that is Ricciardo out of the race, and the safety car has been deployed. Now it is Pato O'Ward. He was doing the one stop, but it looks like he's going to come into the pits here, not trusting that he can hold off Lewis Hamilton with those tyres. He's going to take some fresh tyres. Now we did hear that Chevrolet having some issues with this car. We believe that there's some sort of hydraulic issue on the Chevrolet of Pato O'Ward, which is why he was losing about 3 seconds a lap to Lewis Hamilton before this safety car came out. So Chevrolet, in a desperate attempt to try and get themselves back into some sort of a decent result in this race, going to pit Pato O'Ward and hope to fix the issue, but from what we've heard, it doesn't sound good for the Chevrolet driver. Despite looking so close to a potential first win, he now finds himself in a situation where he's going to try and have to hang on to the points he can. Lewis Hamilton will lead the field back to green now through the final couple of corners. He's now got Sebastian Vettel, his former rival, behind him. Pierre Gasly in 3rd position. Schwartzman in 4th. We've got quite a mixed up top 4 positions here. Apart from, of course, the usual, Lewis Hamilton leads the way and will lead them back to green flag racing. Sebastian Vettel in tow, going to try and make the move here on the restart, but he's too far back initially. But maybe, just maybe, you can get a bit of a run on Lewis Hamilton, but a bit of a squiggle there on the exit of turn 1. Sebastian Vettel will be looking in his mirrors down towards turn 3. Robert Schwartzman still holding on to that P4 position. Sergio Perez, though, will be pushing hard to try and get that position away from him as they race up into the hairpin. Schwartzman now on the outside of Sergio Perez. Perez dives to the inside. Can he make that move stick? He looks like he might be able to do so. And looks like he's done it. Schwartzman now having to defend from Charles Leclerc, who comes through on the inside towards turn 1. Can Charles Leclerc make this move work? He's going to give it a good old go. And it looks like he's going to manage it. And that is up into 5th position for Charles Leclerc in this race. Robert Schwartzman just behind. He's going to fight back, though, is he? To the outside into turn 3. Big lock up there from the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Robert Schwartzman may have to pick his battles a bit more wiser here, as O'Ward gets involved in this battle now as well. He's going to put himself in the middle of the 3 wide moment. He's going to go to the middle. Schwartzman breaks earlier, backs out of the corner. O'Ward, can he make this move work? But Carlo is struggling at the moment, does not have the grip. He can get one of them, but he can't get Charles Leclerc there. And O'Ward, you can see through the high-speed corners, he doesn't have the grip of his rivals. Schwartzman perhaps struggling here on these old tyres as there's battling for down the order. Bottas trying to recover in this race. He had a tumble down the order earlier in the race, and now he's trying to fight his way back into the points. Into the pits comes Robert Schwartzman. Always going to get collected. Big crash. Lando Norris around, loses his wing. Big moment on the entry of the pits. McLaren's already lost 1 car at that corner today, and they quite nearly lost their 2nd. But Lando Norris still, with just 4 laps left in this race, he is surely, realistically, out of the fight for points, as he has lost his entire front wing there through that tricky penultimate corner. O'Ward now battling with Mick Schumacher. These two going at it for the 6th position. Looks like Schumacher has got the position on this occasion. Can O'Ward fight back as they make their way up the hill? O'Ward in the slipstream now. He's going to go to the outside, up the hill now, into the braking zone. Pato O'Ward to the outside of Mick Schumacher. It's 2 star young drivers, stars of the future, going wheel to wheel here in Austria. Very much on opposite sides of the racetrack now. Schumacher doing all he can, but he has the DRS, and it'll make his life much easier. Schumacher up into 6th position. O'Ward down to 7th now. And he's now going to have to look in his mirrors at Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's going to dive up the inside of the penultimate corner. O'Ward's going to keep his nose in there and try and go back around the outside, something that we've not seen many drivers able to do so far today. O'Ward gets back up into the 7th position, but you can see he's struggling. Tsunoda back on the rear of him to the inside of turn 1. These two are going to go wheel to wheel through turn 1. You can see Fernando Alonso right behind the two of them, waiting to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong here. They're going to go wheel to wheel up the hill. O'Ward on the right hand side, Tsunoda on the left. They're going to go 3-1. Alonso gets in the mix. Oh, and they've crashed off the road. O'Ward into the wall heavily. Tsunoda off the road as well. Big crash into turn 3 here. As they went through turn 2, it's all gone wrong for the 3 of them. And that is Pato O'Ward Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso all with major damage here on the final lap of the race. It has all gone wrong. Let's have a replay of this one. Fernando Alonso behind the two. He goes in between. Is that a gap that was really there? They get squeezed as they go up through turn 2. And that has resulted in a massive crash. Let's see it from the onboard of Tsunoda. He's just minding his business on the outside, and then all of a sudden across the front of him comes O'Ward. O'Ward doing all he can to try and survive that crash, but a big crash into the barriers. See the onboard of O'Ward. He's trying to turn left, but he gets hooked and turns right. Nothing over of him or Tsunoda could do. I think that may well have been Fernando Alonso going for a gap that wasn't there. But up at the front, incident free, Lewis Hamilton is going to win the Austrian Grand Prix and take his 3rd win of the season here in Alternative Apex 2022. Pierre Gasly takes an impressive 2nd place with Sebastian Vettel in 3rd ahead of Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc, with Mick Schumacher getting a great result there in P6. Bottas recovers to 7th, Verstappen in 8th, and Carlos Sainz does get 8th. So it is Mercedes Day here in Austria. Lewis Hamilton gets his 3rd win of the season on a season that looks set to be perhaps his, well, record-breaking 8th World Championship. Maybe, just maybe, this is his year after coming so close in 2021. This season, it's hard to bet against Lewis Hamilton. His 3rd win in the first half of the season. It's looking very much like the 7-time world champion could well add to his collection this year. Pierre Gasly backs up his brilliant win in Paul Ricard to take P2 here in Austria. The best he could manage today, with Sebastian Vettel getting back on the podium with Ferrari, taking 3rd place in what was a truly exciting Austrian Grand Prix. Was there much that didn't happen in today's race? I honestly don't know, but there we go. It is Lewis Hamilton who ends up on top here in Austria. And here is your official full result here. It's Gasly that gets 2nd behind Lewis Hamilton. Vettel rounding off the podium ahead of Sergio Perez there for Red Bull, sealing some points for the Austrian team. It is then Charles Leclerc backing up a strong day for Ferrari. Another great result for Mick Schumacher as he gets 6th place. It's then Valtteri Bottas in 7th, recovering well after the early issues. Max Verstappen also had to recover late after picking up wing damage. Carlos Sainz gets 9th place for Chevrolet after that incident with involving his teammate. So Chevrolet haven't lost everything today, but certainly will be disappointed that O'Ward's day was ended half a lap sooner than it perhaps should have. Fernando Alonso, despite being involved in that accident, still gets a point in today's Grand Prix, perhaps controversially there. But he does manage to hold on to that 1 points position, with Lance Stroll just missing out. Nicholas Latifi, credit to him there, getting 12th there, with both Canadians just outside of the points. Williams getting slightly close to the points there in the form of Nicholas Latifi, but not quite able to do it. Perhaps if that accident had happened a lap or so earlier, maybe that would have been the chance for Latifi, but as it stands, Latifi 12th place in this race, and not the result he would have wanted. Tsunoda 13th, and Esteban Ocon brings home 14th for Alpine. And now let's have a look at the drivers' standings. Lewis Hamilton now with a 36-point championship lead over a Grand Prix win ahead of Lando Norris. It's as I said earlier, hard to bet against him. He is looking on a new level here. Both him and Mercedes just on another level this season. Lando Norris doing a great job to be in 2nd at the moment, with Antonio Giovinazzi still in 3rd despite his engine failure today. Pierre Gasly jumps up into 4th now. The Frenchman, after his win and our podium here, doing very well and on a good run of form. Perhaps he can jump his way up to perhaps take the fight to Lando Norris for that 2nd place. Mick Schumacher in 5th, still ahead of Max Verstappen, the reigning champion. What a season it's been for Mick Schumacher, just unbelievable race after unbelievable race. I think it's a matter of time before we see him get his first Grand Prix victory, because the form he has been on recently has been outstanding. Then Max Verstappen, as we said, in 6th position ahead of Esteban Ocon in 7th, then Lance Stroll in 8th. Then it is Sebastian Vettel gets himself into the top 10 for Ferrari. Sergio Perez in 10th. These guys, both Sebastian Vettel, Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc, all starting to make their way up the Drivers' Championship order to where you perhaps expect them to be. All of them are nearly inside the top 10, with 2 of them actually being inside the top 10. Then Ricciardo 12th at the moment, whilst his teammate 2nd. Is that really good enough? That's what McLaren will have to decide at the end of the season. O'Ward sits 13th in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Chevrolet not having necessarily the season they would have been hoping for this year. Now on to the Constructors' standings. Mercedes unsurprisingly sit top of the standings at the moment, with McLaren in second, only 24 points back though, because of course Bottas having a less than desirable season so far. Aston Martin in third, not out of it yet, 29 points back. If Giovinazzi can re-find his early season form, then maybe we could see Aston Martin getting back in the fight there. AlphaTauri ahead of their big brother team Red Bull by 2 points at the moment, so it's close between the two Honda powered cars. Then it is Ferrari jumping up into 6th, finally getting some good points on the board. Alfa Romeo 7th, but very much in the fight with Ferrari this season, so lots of the teams that you'd usually say are the A teams to their B teams not looking quite as clear cut this year, with Alpine sitting 8th, just about an improvement over last year so far. Chevrolet doing very well at 28 points, but every team other than Williams and Haas in that midfield has had an insane improvement over last season. Chevrolet scored 31 points in the entirety of last season, and I think they got 8th in the Constructors. No, they got 7th in the Constructors with 31 points. We're halfway through the season, and 7th in the Constructors has 43 points. It is just crazy how close this season has been so far, and if it keeps up as being as close as this, I very strongly look forward to the next half of the season. But that was it for round 5 of the season. Well, that's it, we're halfway through season 2022 of the Alternative Apex series. Next up we go to Hungary for round 6 of the season, a new track in the Alternative Apex series, so who knows who'll be on top there. The only way to find out is to join us next time for the Hungarian Grand Prix. I'll see you there.